Okay, greetings. This is Bern coming to you from Tbilisi. Can you hear me okay out there? Let me know that. While we're waiting for more people to show up, I am going to give you a bit of an update. What I realize is as I'm doing this, these videos will get another couple hundred people looking at them afterwards. So, what I'm going to do is start off with a bit of an update with where we are. And where we are is where we often are in fundraisers about the two-thirds point, which is tired. Uh, I start going through all sorts of stuff in my mind, like, we have enough money. I'll give you the statistics in a moment, but we have enough money. I've raised a good quantity of money, but not enough to get there. And what if I don't? Then I've raised this money and it's kind of like I'm stuck. And so I need to get past that point. But then I start thinking about it. What if I don't get there? It's there's still another 4,000 at least, maybe 5,000 to go to make it so it really works. And you just don't know. You can't say for certain it's going to get there. I mean, I feel very confident because people have been very helpful, but still, we've raised about $8,000 now, and um, that's a lot from my little channel. That I don't really get. The only monetary benefit I get from this channel, apart from doing this kind of thing, is I have a few people who give me money regularly, and a few people who will give drips and drabs of money. If I make $200 or $300 a month doing this, it's amazing, and that is helpful to me here in Tbilisi, Georgia. But yeah, you reach the point where the doubts start to creep in, and I've heard some news, which I'll tell you in a moment, which gives me even more doubts. A couple of pieces of news. So it kind of adds pressure. This news adds pressure, and so I am basically, I feel pretty confident, but I'm also at that point where the two-thirds mark, where you're starting to wonder, am I going to get to the end? Because if I don't, that's really terrible because I can't come along next year and ask again. you know, and daily expenses and stuff will start to nibble at the money, and I don't want that to happen. I mean, I'm doing this on a shoestring anyway. The 12,000 that I'm asking as the total, it's not like I'm going to be finished with this whole thing and say, "Oh, great, I have money left over." That is not going to happen. If anything, it'll be the other way around. So we'll explain what we're doing in a moment and where we are. But the two pieces of news I received in the last week or so are this. So I've seen some people get really upset that the U.S. government is bombing, the people in Yemen and such. And I was like, yeah, okay, that could be problematic, extending the war and such. And then I found out what they were actually doing and why is that they are taking this, they are invading ships going through the Red Sea just to really piss everyone off. And they're not like the Somalians. They don't have these little, PT boats that come up along the side and they throw a rope up. They've got actual legitimate ships that can stop. So a large shipping line, Maersk, which is one of the biggest ones in the world, has stopped sending its ships through the Red Sea because they've already, had several incidents of the Houthi rebels, boarding ships. And I'm sitting there saying, I got to get my stuff through there. Yeah, I don't know, don't know what it's going to be. Maybe they'll have to go through the Panama Canal to get the stuff here. I don't know. Welcome to 2024, and where geopolitics invades everyday life. So that is that, and it's something I have to think about now. I didn't want to. I'm going to be, there's these maps, these movable maps where you can follow the course of your ship as it moves. And I'm going to be watching that like crazy, especially with piece of information number 2. I was thinking this is going to take about 35 days, maybe 40 days to get to me. I will be lucky if my container, when it's finally shipped, takes 2 months. I'm hearing more like 3 months now. And here's what the problem is with that. Normally I'd be like, okay, it's going to take 3 months. But if you remember, my basic motivation here is to get my stuff here before I have to get my temporary residence permit up renewed, because like I said, I'm 95% sure I'm going to get it, but there's been enough stuff happening in the last few years with immigrants from Russia and other stuff that I can't say for 100% sure. So I need to get my stuff here before then. If for some reason I was not to get my residence permit renewed, I'm not worried about it because things are pretty loose here. But getting it through the border, the guys at the shipping agency told me it would really help to have that permit. So I need to get it done before then. So right now I'm thinking, oh my, maybe I should get there earlier. Maybe I should get there instead of at the end of March and near the beginning of March or in mid-March. And so it's putting more pressure on me because, if I say, okay, if it leaves at the end of March, that's March. Okay, so April, May, June. That is way too close. That's way too close. So maybe I'll have to do it even earlier. I don't know. So it all depends on when I can raise the money. And that is the truth. So it's like, that's where I am. So I've got a little bit of pressure coming down on me. But the good news, where we are. Let me switch cameras here and tell you a bit of what's going on. Let's see. So onto the wall. There we are. So, okay, the overall goal is $12,000. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But the good news is we've got the freighter money, $6,000. We've got the $2,000 barge money to get the stuff, the container with my library in it from Haines, Alaska, 1,000 miles, 1,600 kilometers down the coast to Seattle, Washington for the ship. Then, now what we're working on is the $2,000 I'm going to need for the truck and to get through customs and maybe a train between the coast and here. Customs is the big, I don't know. If somebody, and here's the thing, is I can't guess it either, because if I get some sort of very official sort of customs guy who really says, you're going to have to pay us a lot more customs tax, I can't do anything but do it. So anyway, but the good news is when last we left us, we needed $106 to get to the end point. And since then, we've received some money from my friend Lita. We've received $100 from Laura Giles, and then $100 came in anonymously on GoFundMe. By the way, giving on GoFundMe is the best way to be anonymous. So our official total now is we need $1,894 to get to the $2,000, and another $2,000 to get me back and forth from here to Alaska and back. And that would be helpful because the stuff is not going to get into the container by itself, and I have to go through and sort stuff out and sell stuff. I've got furniture in there that I need to sell. I've got some tools that I don't need, lamps that I don't need, etc. So I'm going to do that, and fortunately in Alaska, people are very good at showing up for garage sales. But right now we're juggling. I don't know. I'm really hoping it doesn't take 3 months, but like I said, there's nothing I can do. My residence permit ends on kind of like the middle of July this year. So I gotta get it here before then. So are you with me? Who's out there? Say hello. Where are you from? I got people watching. So basically, we've got $4,000 to get to 12,000. And there's a part of me that's saying, "Oh no, how are we going to get there?" And another part of me that says, "We will get there." But I hate to get the same people over and over giving. I want new people. I know there's more people out there. There's plenty more. I think I've got about, I don't know, maybe about 80 to 90 people who've given so far. But like I said, there's at least 200, 250, sometimes 300 people who look at these videos for the uh, the actual fundraiser. So you're out there, you know who you are, and you need to consider helping, please. And if everyone gives a little, we'll get there. And if a few people give more, we'll get there. And if you do want to give more, I suggest going through GoFundMe. If you're living in an odd country and you don't trust PayPal, I suggest using GoFundMe. The rest of you can use PayPal, and the link is below in the description section, right below where it says the anadromous. And so check that out. Meanwhile, I've got a bunch of European type music to play for you. That was Salvatore Alessio doing Lontana, and a great, with Lontana was the name of the group, doing a great pizzicata. So I love that piece. That you may have heard it before. You may hear it again someday. So let's see what we're going to do. Shall we stay with the Italians? No, we'll come back to them. Let's go to Hungary, and we're going to play Marta Sebastian, whom I played with Laura S on the Christmas 12 Songs of Christmas. I played her Bethlehem song, but this is another song by Marta Sebastian from Hungary from the 1980s. Yeah, I love that kind of seesawing back and forth motion in that Hungarian music. The Poles do it too. So do the Czechs sometimes. It's a fascinating Middle European kind of sound, kind of related to the polka but deeper. And well, like I said, if you get any questions and you'd like to ask, feel free to write. If anyone would like to come on and talk, let me know in the comments, and I'll get you on here. I'll send you the link to come aboard. Yeah, and a reminder that if you give $50 or more, I do have Georgian music files for you, and so we'll do that. Yeah, we're starting off a little slow, but hey, it's the way it goes. I need to get some sort of really spectacular special guest on board. Marketing. I'm not very good at marketing because I don't like lying. Okay, so what else is going on here? Actually, I went to a supra the other night, two nights ago. Now, what a supra is a ritualized Georgian meal. There is one person who is a toastmaster called the tamada, and he will, sometimes it's she, but he will toast. There's a certain ritual of things to be toast. So the first toast is always to God. The next toast is often to the people who made the meal. Which in this case we didn't have it at someone's house. We had it at a nice spot in a enclosed room that was very homey in a Georgian restaurant. But what made this very interesting is, now we didn't, in some supras, it's about singing, dancing, other kinds of sharing. But in this one, it was about philosophy, which was really fascinating. So I unfortunately arrived late because the directions between Google Maps and the fact that they were doing road construction, it took forever. But we sat around this table. There were about 10 of us, and there was a man there. My friend whose supra it was, whose special meal it was. His name is Lasha. Some of the people who came here as part of the gathering in Georgia met him. A great guy, wonderful guy. And he is also a Heidegger scholar, and he teaches Heidegger and philosophy at the local state university. And he had invited a special Heidegger scholar here who was at this thing. So when I arrived a bit late, they were having this discussion that, you know, quite frankly, I know how to think, but I don't know all the philosophical names and words and such. But it was really fascinating. Eventually, it became a more open discussion on what is going on with society. I met some very interesting people. One guy named Uscha, Ucha, Ucha. I want to say Uscha, but it's Ucha. Really fascinating guy to talk to. We had a slight disagreement. He said, you know, a prayer is the same thing as a wish, and I disagreed, and we had a little bit of a thing on that. And then later he says, "I hope I didn't offend you," and I go, "Oh, no, 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 you don't offend me raising questions like that." But that was really great, and it made me think I need to do some stuff here at my house in Shea uh, that you know, invite some people over just to talk. And I thought that was an excellent evening. So just that reminder about Georgian music. If you give me $50 as part of your contribution, I will give you 50 music files. If you give me $100, I will give you 100. And I have 4 packets of 50 each, so I can go up to 200. You can get more than that, of course. I'm not going to stop you. But let's play a piece of Georgian music. And just a reminder, the links are down below, PayPal or GoFundMe. GoFundMe is better if you need a tax-deductible receipt or want to remain anonymous or in a particularly odd country. PayPal for everybody else. So let's listen to Nina Nakauri doing a song called Satano. Nino Nakauri and her sister Layla are both astoundingly wonderful musicians, and I'd like to meet them both. I believe they're in the area. If not, they're nearby. and they've been doing some very interesting music. And that is one of the files. I've culled the file from that song. It's actually Martuba, which is the group is Satano, but it's not a TH sound. It's like ta Satano. Let's see. So, like I said, if anyone wants to come aboard and join me live, I would love it. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I will just drone on. Wait a minute, something's going on here. Michael Stasovich. What is this? Okay, $3. Okay, so that I think Michael's whole job in life, he has given certainly enough. By the way, if I owe you music files, do not panic. I will get them to you. I sometimes just get a little busy with things, but and I sent out a whole bunch. People were starting to say, "Bert, where are the files?" And I sent out a whole bunch, and I'm waiting. I'm going to send out a whole bunch soon. And would you like some? So Michael Stasovich has been like plaguing me with little contributions. He's also plagued me with a few nice size ones. And his mother, we won't discuss her. She's a saint. So let me actually just go ahead and add $3 more. Okay, so. Okay, so Michael gave $3. I think just to say, hey, this needs to get started, and it is. And we now need we have over $8,000, and we're now working on the $2,000 I'm going to need for trucks, trains, and to get through customs here in Georgia, which is, like I said, the wild card. We now only need $1,891, and then after that, the $2,000 for the to get me back and forth. And the problem is, the longer it takes for me to get the money, the more that plane ticket is going to cost. So, hint. But very good. So, there it is. If we stop right now, I've made $3 today. What could be wrong with that? Who else is out there? Michael, you want to come on? Okay, let me. I'm going to give you the link in a minute. It'll be on the screen. Feel free to avail yourself of it. Here it is. Write me there, and I will see your email. It'll take takes about 2-3 minutes turnaround on this thing. So write it down, send me an email, and then you already have my email address because, well, somehow you do. And then I'm going to send you an invite. And if anyone else wants to come on board, oh, Nick, you want to come on? Use the same thing. Yeah, it'd be great. It's great having people on board to talk with. It gets people more excited. So write that down. I'm going to take it off in about 3 seconds. So reckoning motions at yahoo.com. At is a little symbol we use in emails for some reason. And I'm going to take it down in just a second here. 5, 4, 3, 2, spell reckoning right, 1. Okay, yeah, I don't like to leave that up all the time because you never know. Someone may drop on here and say, ooh, I want to send Bern weird mail. This is Georgian white wine that's made in a village. There's a man who shows up with a van, and he's got local cheeses and yogurt. They call it mazzoni. And he's got sometimes he has eggs, and the village eggs are absolutely amazing. So yeah. So let me get this invite ready to send to these guys when I receive the mail. Okay, we got one of them on me, so I'll send that one. So this is Michael. And Michael, I'm about to send you the link, and just use that and then wait until I get you on board. Okay, there you go. I just sent it. Take a moment. It's going on a satellite. I like how we've all gotten used to the fact that we're sending people texts and such. I mean, even if you're like across the street from someone, when you send them a text, it goes up somewhere and then it comes down. And we've just gotten used to the fact that satellites work all the time, which is a very odd thing when you really stop and think about it. So, okay. Who else is out there? Okay. Anybody else want to join me? Well, we got one or two people coming. We'll see what happens. I have never seen Michael, so it'll be very interesting to get in touch with him. What else? So, trying to get money, right? Links below, right? Georgian music files, right? And the news, for those of you who popped on later, is that it looks like it's going to take 2 to 3 months for me to get my stuff here, which is really putting a timeline on this whole thing, because my I just sent you yours, Nick. My residence permit runs out in July, and if I was to get there in March, it'll take 3 months. So now there's a clock running, and before I thought it was just like a month or 30 days or so. The other thing is the Houthi rebels are invading ships in the Red Sea, and they're not like the Somali pirates who have these little PT boats or fishing boats or whatever. They've got serious shipping, military shipping stuff they're using. Okay, so Michael, I'm going to let you on.
How do you do?
Are you just going to be an anonymous symbol? Isn't that how we're doing
Well, I'm afraid this computer ain't got a camera, so.
That's all right. Well, so you'll just have to remain kind of this obscure presence who gives me little nuggets of support.
Hey, that works for me. I like anonymity.
Yeah. Where are you? Where do you live?
So I live in Michigan, the Mitten State.
What part?
Southeast. And General Detroit.
Below Grand Rapids.
General Detroit area, we'll say.
Okay. So, that's the east. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, all right. Cool. Where was that? I was in near Grosse Pointe, that area.
Yeah. That's further east than I am. That's right on the water.
Right.
Lake St. Clair.
I have a friend that I visited who lived there.
Yeah.
And Hamtramck.
Yeah. Boy, my family. A lot of my family moved in near Hamtramck, back in the 40s and 30s and 20s.
Is Stasevich? I mean, I know there's a lot of Polish people there. Is Stasevich Polish? But although Stasevich,
no, it's a Belarusian name actually. Yeah. So actually, it's perfect. I can talk about my family history, which I think is quite interesting. I'm basically 3 parts Slav. I'm Belarusian, Ukrainian, and Slovakian, and then German.
Very good.
German is the western part.
Okay. Well, we always have to have someone inside of us who's fighting the rest of them.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly how it is. Yeah.
Well, I'm part Ukrainian, part Polish, part Scottish, and part Norwegian. But there's one common denominator there. They all like cold weather. So, which sometimes makes Georgia a little warm for me in the summer. But overall, there are 5 decent months here. No, 7 decent months here. And then there's 2 really difficult ones. July and August are like just the sweating time.
Yeah, so I can't imagine. It gets hot when it gets. Michigan gets kind of hot in the summer, 90 degrees. And I can't stand that. I prefer it when it's 30 degrees outside. Then I'm happy.
I had a friend who lived in Michigan, not Michigan, Minnesota. And his friend said, he'd meet people and they'd say, oh, the winters must be terrible there. And he goes like, I don't mind the winters. It's the summers.
It's the summers. That's it. Exactly.
Yeah.
You want to go further north in the summer, actually, where it's
Right.
pleasant,
Right.
So, yeah.
So
Yeah.
it doesn't
Well,
do me any good to enlarge your photo.
no. No.
It's just a
Yeah.
it's the random
Yeah.
neutered man symbol.
Yeah.
So
I was just thinking about that right before you said that. I was thinking, boy, does that look generic? What, you know, I, when did such generic images become a thing, do you think? Because I don't
well,
think, yeah.
this is all a product of modernism.
Yeah.
And at
You're
a
right.
certain point, the modernist simplification of everything entered the graphic design.
Hmm.
And once they got a hold of it, they just never stopped. And so,
Yeah.
everything you have is just, oh, make it simpler. No, don't clutter it up. Don't add serifs to the fonts. Don't add any sort of thing. Just make
Hmm.
it simple. And
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
So what do you do out there in
What do I
Michigan?
do? I'm
Yeah.
a eternal student, which is to say, I just am slowly working my way towards a degree in history right now. So,
Okay. Any
uh,
specific kind of history?
no, just a general history degree. I mean, I take, Western history is
Right.
definitely what interests me more, but I have an interest in Russian history because of my heritage, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've come to inherit a large collection of my grandfather's books, and
Ah.
he really
What
liked
language?
book. What's that?
What language? English or other?
Mostly English. He had a good number of Russian books, though. Um, he grew up. He was born in 1930, so he grew up. He was taught both. He grew up learning English, but in the house, I'm sure they spoke Russian. So,
Right. Right.
so yeah, he knew how to read it, and yeah, I've kind of inherited that and appreciation of
Nice.
Russia and all that. And
Yeah, well, because of the Ukrainian-Russian situation just north and to the west of us here, we had 300,000, probably about 350,000 Russians pass through here. A lot of them just passed through and they
mhm,
didn't stay. But I would say we probably had a resident population now of about around 100,000. It's
mm,
hard to know. I do
crazy.
know Russians have been leaving. It's like they were happy here for a while, but of course, the Russians are actually occupying two sections of the former Georgia now, and
Mm,
there are Russian
right.
soldiers monitoring a border on this side of the mountains, about 70 kilometers from me, about 50 miles or so.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that so the relationship is complex, but among those people, there were 3 or 4 Belarusians I met, and they
Yeah.
were the first ones I've ever met because they never seem to escape.
No, they
So
don't.
yeah, they're one of
Yeah.
those people you don't meet in the world, you know.
Yeah. It's because it's just a puppet state of Russia, basically.
Exactly.
It's just,
And
yeah, it's unfortunate.
they were very cool people. They were kind of on the rebellious side
Hmm.
in terms of Belarus, which meant they were really nice, polite people.
Yeah. Instead of a dictatorial,
Yeah,
authoritarian kind. Yeah.
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 But yeah, I've done a bit of genealogical research in the last 6 months or so and found out all sorts of interesting things.
Hmm.
But the Ukrainian and Polish sides are very tough to dig into
Yes.
because of history.
That, yeah. That
There's
curtain
some,
came
there's a
down,
big
and
yeah. It's I'm wondering if there's any place on earth, between Poland and Russia that has between Poland and Ukraine specifically that has had more catastrophe in their history. I mean, I
yeah.
think the Jews have as a people. The Georgians certainly have had a lot of catastrophe, but what happened. I'm told that by say 1950, Ukraine lost over 50% of their population,
Hmm. Hmm.
which is and Poland lost was 6 million people, about 3 million Poles and such, and 3 million Jews. in World War II. So, and have you ever traveled to Europe?
Yeah, actually, as a kid, when we took a number of trips, my dad liked to travel, so we I'm sorry to say, Bern, we did a lot of cruises. Worst Disney cruises.
Well, it sounds like you listened to my my
Yeah, I may have
travel
listened to a little bit of
ranking.
that.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
So I will take you as having been informed.
yeah,
But no, the truth is my mother and stepfather did that, and
yeah,
people naturally, the truth is many people, they don't have the energy. They don't have it takes a little bit of research and knowledge
mhm,
to look for things.
it does.
I love that process.
Yeah, it's
And
fascinating.
and doing this thing, I am looking forward to uh, getting uh, going through the process of getting this all booked and everything.
Mhm,
You know, so by the way, that's what we're doing here. We're trying to
yeah,
get my library in a container from Alaska, 12 time zones, to Georgia. And you can help. There are links below if you've just popped on or don't know what in the world's going on yet. We've got over $8,000. We're going to need about 4,000 more, plus a little bit extra because all the money people have been giving, a little bits and pieces of it all get taken out by these companies.
mm,
So, and
yeah,
I need the actual amount of $12,000. So, but I'll worry about that when we get closer. First, let's just get there and
yeah.
see what happens. But yeah, and if you give over $50, you get Georgian music files. $100, you get 100 files. 50 gets you 50. Links below. Just saying. Oh, looks like, what do we got here? Oh, somebody's doing something. Do you mind if I stop and deal with this?
Go right ahead, Bern.
Thank you. Now it's your job to keep an idea of what we were talking about.
Right.
So, maybe Mr. Not specified. No, that's okay. A J.C. Field. I don't know what James. James Field has just given $50. So I'm going to switch cameras here and go through our little ritual of getting this written down. The nice thing about having you, Michael, is you're like really following this thing, which is really
Yeah,
great.
I like doing my little bits,
Yeah. And have I sent you 50
You sent me at least
music files yet?
100. You've sent me
Okay, well, you'll
and
probably
my
end up getting
mother.
more, won't you?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
send me whatever you
so,
want, I mean,
okay, I understand. I get it. You're not proud. Okay, so we now have James F. I need to put the F because I think I've got 3 or 4 Jameses now. James F. just gave us $50, which gives us we now need to get to the $2,000 truck and customs money. We now need 1,841 American dollars, not Australian, not Canadian, not Micronesian, although Micronesian, I believe, is the same as American. Okay, so let's get back into this.
stupendous.
I'm going to play. How long do you feel like hanging around here?
Unfortunately, I have to go around 2 o'clock, alas. So,
Okay, so in about 10 minutes, you'll be
yeah,
gone. Well,
it's
let
too
me
bad,
just
but
play a short song.
yeah.
Michael, I'll give you the choice. We can either hear, I've got some weird Italian kind of folk music that turns into the twist. I've got a Czech girl singer with an accordion. I've got one American rock song on here by one of my favorites, Holly Beth Vincent.
Ooh.
And okay, choose from those 3. Which one?
Well, you did turn me on to Holly Beth Vincent, but I'm curious about the
Okay,
Italian twist.
but what are you going for? You want the Italian twist?
Yeah, give me that one.
Yeah, it's just
Fascinating.
too weird.
Yeah.
So okay, so here we go. We'll be back in a few minutes. Links down below. PayPal, GoFundMe. Do contribute, and James, you will be getting 50 Georgian music files. but you won't be getting this because this is not from Georgia. This is from Southern California. And this is Holly Beth Vincent doing one of her songs off the Oblivious album. So she has a genius. I mean, if Taylor Swift is a genius at marketing, Holly Beth Vincent was a genius for screwing up her marketing. So that's why nobody knows her.
Yeah.
But so she called her group the Oblivious instead of anything with the name Holly in it. Okay, let's play that. We'll be right back.
Wowee.
She has very few videos out, and that was one that's like this. Well, we've got another friend here, Nick. Welcome aboard.
How do you do?
And let me see if I can do it this way. Hold on a minute. Okay, you're doing this. Ta-da. Okay, Michael, you're the big hole in the middle there.
Fantastic.
And so, Nick, welcome aboard. Where do you live again?
Providence, Rhode Island.
Okay. H.P. Lovecraft country there. And are you familiar with Lovecraft at all?
Not as much as I should be.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
read a
Well,
couple of his stories.
I did go to Providence once. There was a World Fantasy Convention there about 1984 or so. And it's the only one of those things I've ever been to, but it was pretty interesting. And I walked around, and I thought it was an interesting city, and has a vibe to it. So what are you doing there these days? What are you up to?
Well, this is the first city I've ever, like real city I've ever lived in.
Okay.
I came here for my master's program. I just graduated in December, master's in biblical studies.
Okay. Okay. Very good. So let's see. What do you have to say for yourself today? Where are you from originally?
I grew up in New Hampshire.
Okay, so you are a New Englander.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. New Hampshire is kind of a weird state.
It's
I remember the only time I've ever been to New Hampshire, I was in Brattleboro, Vermont, and we were doing a puppet show there. And we were there 2 days. The next day we crossed, and everyone kept saying, "Wait, you'll get billboards the second you leave Vermont." And so suddenly there were these billboards. As soon as we crossed, there were billboards for like guns. There were billboards for like all this stuff. And then we went, and I stopped at some sort of little gas station food thing, really funky. It wasn't like an official, like, one of the big chains, it seemed. It was just some small road stop. And as soon as I went in there, it's like the woman was talking to me in a really thick accent. And I said, up until this point, I always thought hillbillies lived in, down south.
No, yeah, it is a northern version of hillbillies.
Yeah. That Stephen King. Well, the Maine accent is even different than that. That's the interesting thing about New England.
Yeah. I didn't inherit the New Hampshire accent.
No, well,
my mom
these
has
days
it a little bit.
lot of people are kind of doing the neutral. We've all got media accents essentially. And so being in California, that's, we got a good dose of that there because we devise so much of the media that we naturally get that stuff.
Yeah.
Michael?
Yes.
Do you get do you hear the Michigan accent much?
Yeah, there is. I guess there is a Midwest accent. No, I can't hear it. I mean, we do say water. We don't say water. We know.
Yeah.
Basically, Midwestern accent is a very lazy accent. You just slur all your words around.
Well, if you go to the Upper Peninsula, though, then you get the Utah accent.
Yeah, W-B. Yeah.
Yeah. And they start shading into Canadian accents.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, okay, well, Michael, I guess you're about out of here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of waiting on my have an appointment. My mom broke her knee, so.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
His mother is the person, she's given a couple of loads of $400, and I'm like, she's got the most valuable player award right now. Well, tell her to we'll keep her in our prayers and such.
Thanks, yeah, it's been a long road. She broke it back in August, and
right. How old is she?
She's 65. So
okay, so she's younger than me, but no, I know very well that if you as you get older, things just don't heal up as quick.
Yeah.
And I'm even though people will say you're not that old yet, which is true because people are living longer now. And I've been into old folks' homes and senior villages and stuff in Alaska. I used to help them, and I'd meet people in there. Like there was a woman who was 99 years old. I would pick up in a truck and take her around. And it was really interesting seeing out of those people's eyes.
Yeah.
But, you look at them and you go like, oh, that's never going to be me. To which the answer to that question is, oh, yeah, it will. But you do have to take care of yourself when you're younger. And when we're younger, we don't tend to understand that. It's, so for instance, one of the things you should protect like mad when you're younger is your knees.
Yeah.
Because when you get older, you really feel it. And my knees are still pretty good. But if I take a I don't know, 2-3 hour hike, I feel it. My knees feel it. They don't. I don't have arthritis. My mother had very bad arthritis, and one of the things I realized is that she spent so much time sitting.
Yeah.
And the answer to the arthritis thing is generally, I mean, unless you have an absolutely severe case and can't move at all, you really should be just keep moving.
Yeah.
Keep the cartilage going and such. So.
Absolutely. So I better go. So thanks,
okay.
Vern. And
thanks for the little minuscule donation. It always is helpful to get the pump primed.
Yeah, it's great to come on finally and talk to you at last, and hopefully I can come on again at some point. So
I will be doing this. I don't think I'm going to get my $4,000 unless you never know. Someone might be out there and go, "Oh, let's put Vern out of his misery and send me a check."
You never know, Mr. Beast.
Go to GoFundMe and
Mr. Beast might be watching or something.
GoFundMe. Michael Droby.
Farewell, my friend.
Good to meet you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
So we will meet again. So Nick, don't go anywhere. Okay, I'm just checking. I have to update my GoFundMe page because it doesn't, unlike I get notifications on my Yahoo mail from the other thing. So you had quite a road in life, haven't you?
Yep.
I don't know if you want to talk about your story at all right now, or maybe we can save.
I don't mind. I've been kind of semi-anonymous with my pseudonym, but I'm not trying too hard to.
Right. And well, for those of you who don't know, which is everyone, Nick went through his trans phase. And how long ago was that?
10 years ago when I began the transition, and then reversed 8 years ago. So it was a 2-year.
Okay. How far along did you get?
So I was on the hormones. I only did the hormones, no surgery. Fortunately, I've always had a great aversion to surgery.
Yeah.
But I was on the hormones. I did by the end of it, it had been a few months in that my endocrinologist had told me that my hormone levels were at the balance of a healthy female. But fortunately, it was about 16 months that I was on it. But fortunately, I mean, I know people who've been on it for a shorter amount of time, guys, and they were left with permanent effects. I'm very lucky that I got nothing,
Right. How old were you when you made that decision or decided to do that?
I started socially transitioning, just like how I dressed and my name and everything, when I was 19, and then by the time I was 20, I was on the hormones.
So. Yeah, I get the feeling you have spent some time thinking about this, and have you understood what your motivations were, or what your confusions were, or what was behind your initial choice?
I still try to keep a lot of it up in the air because I can only kind of feel a lot of it out, but I think a lot of it. It's like there's so many parts to it, but some aspect of it could just be that there was something very atypical about myself that is just the way that I was, and that was just hard to deal with. So it was hard to grow up and then integrate that with myself and not like interpret that as meaning that I needed to like explicitly take on the female social role in order for that to make sense. But in a lot of ways, I also discovered that I'm a very typical guy in like most ways. There might be more superficial aspects of things that are atypical about me, but like, I mean, I like girls. I have a competitive desire to, be the best at something. And I have a certain maybe logical way of thinking about things that in the way that I relate to other people. A big, part of what I discovered was like, no matter how I might feel, like I didn't go through, because I'm male, I was brought into a world of other males and females. And it's not just a social construct thing. I really I can't bypass the fact that I'm going to socialize with other males, because that's what happens when you're born male. You get socialized as a male. It's not unnatural. I can't socialize and join in with the kind of female social role. It would always be very superficial. but I guess I didn't really answer your question, which was like the other side of, maybe there being some things about me that were atypical was just that I just like had the sense that being a guy is bad. I had the, like I picked up on just kind of all the stuff about men being the problems with the world and the oppressors, and women being the oppressed ones. But I highly idealized women.
Right.
In some ways, my natural attraction to women was just an extreme admiration and infatuation. In some ways, it was exaggerated, like women can do no wrong, because it's like they're equal. I formally would have accepted men and women are equal, but it's sort of like, but women are oppressed and they're equal.
Right.
So actually, they must be kind of better.
Yeah, it sounds like a variation on some of the things I went through when I was young. Because for one thing, it was just my mother and I, and my biological father, Mr. Rab was his last name, cheated on my mother while she was pregnant. Not a good thing. Then she got married a couple more times. I ended up with the last name of Power, and there was a Mr. Power. He was an alcoholic, but back in those days, you didn't have boyfriends, but you got married over and over. And so, but I realized I really connected with monster imagery. And I connected with it because I associated men more with the monsters, because my mother was always trying to get away from him. But my mother was not at all a strong character. That is to say, she was not in any way dominant over me. And so by the age of 12, I realized, oh, I am much stronger than my mother physically and emotionally. And so it was a very strange situation for me, because I realized that, these dynamics are really important. I often wonder, we don't even realize the effect of what goes on while we're in our mother's uterus, while we're in the womb, because what's happening if our parents are having an argument during that period? What's happening if your mother is eating really strange foods during that period? What is happening if she is really depressed and anxious? And what kind of effects did this have when we come out?
No, I think that's big too. Yeah. Because I sometimes think about, I mentioned stuff about like, depictions of men and women and how that affected me, but it's sort of like I'm picking up on all the same stuff as everyone else. Why was I so affected by that kind of, messaging about men? And I think, there was stuff about, tensions between my parents, maybe my mom finding my dad kind of repulsive in his masculinity. And I think that a lot of the way that the reason why this type of stuff takes hold so much is that it, at a very young age, it tells you, this is what I need to do in order to be taken care of.
Right.
And then if that becomes like a really serious, like emergency need, you kind of can get just stuck in that place your whole life. Yeah. And I think that, where I'm at right now, where I kind of like work with my therapist is, even before I started seeing him, I was kind of shifting my mindset of like, I can still sometimes have this, I don't know how to describe it, feeling that I'm a woman, and I fluctuate, but I more reinterpret that as me being like a child. And I think that's a more accurate interpretation, that it was me trying to remain sort of in a state where I don't have to take on the kind of male responsibility, and instead be in a place where I can be, I guess, taken care of and seen as like that my pain will be noticed.
Right. Well, women, I think, experience pain differently than men. And are you an only child?
No, I have one older brother.
Okay. I think that when we're young and we connect to the pain of our mothers, we also are in our own pain from, just the fact that nobody gets through childhood without something happening. Of course, in some situations, it's much worse than others. but no parents are perfect. And so it's very possible to identify with the mother's pain and to bring it onto you. And I don't know if you know about the Jungian ideas of the anima and the animus, which are the male inside of the female and the female inside of the male, which we get from our opposite sex parent and our relationship to them. So I think that it's very possible for that. And also, of course, puberty is a very important time for us.
Yeah.
And that's when a lot of stuff tends to come out because, our bodies are changing.
Very troubling, kind of traumatic time for people who end up transitioning.
Yeah. And we don't, part of the problem is we don't understand ourselves. I'm going to play a song here and give a little bit more of a pitch to get let people know what we're doing. But there's a question here, and you might think about this. Nico from Argentina asks, so Nick, have you found any strong source of identity, some sort of tribe or story? And you think about that. We'll be back in a moment. I'm going to play another song here, and this is, what will I play? I'll give you the choice this time. I'll give you the choices. Edith Piaf, old short movie from her singing La Vie en Rose. We're going to do a French trifecta here. Le Luneau by the group Malicorne, which is again sung by a woman. It's a very beautiful, slow, haunting song. Or Bal Musette music, and that's the typical French accordion sound. Which one would you like to hear?
I'm not familiar with any of those, but let's go with the accordion one.
Okay, we'll do that. So just a reminder, what we're doing here is trying to raise money for me to get my library from Haines, Alaska, 12 time zones to Tbilisi, Georgia. And it's a huge expense. I have a huge library. It weighs over 12,000 pounds. 6,000 kilos, and I've got to go back to Alaska and weed through some of the stuff I have and put it all in a container and ship it. We have it's going to cost at least $12,000. We have paid for the freighter already, $6,000. We have paid, and that freighter goes from Seattle, Washington, all across 2 oceans to Poti in the Black Sea in Georgia. Then we've paid $2,000 for the barge to take the container from Haines, Alaska, 1,000 miles, 1,600 kilometers down to Seattle, Washington on a barge. Now what we're trying to do is get the money to get a truck and a crew to get it from the docks in Poti through customs, which is the wild card here, to my door. And right now we've got... on that $2,000, and there's one more $2,000 of my plane tickets to get back and forth to do this. So we need now $1,841 to get there, that $2,000. We can do it. You're out there. Links below, PayPal or GoFundMe. And if you want Georgian music files, $50 will get you 50 files, $100 will get you 100 files, etc. So let's listen to a little bit of French music here, and we'll be right back with Nick, talking to Nick about the realities of life in the 21st century. So. Okay, before we get back to Nick, good news, Sean Desmond just gave us $100 and he will be getting 100 Georgian music files for that. And that now gives us another $100. So now we only need $1,741 to get to our $2,000 truck and customs goal. And we're within we're less than $4,000 to get to the our ultimate goal of $12,000. So we're closing in. You know, sometimes I get a little bit like, I was like, am I gonna make it? You know, and this is work to actually come on and do this. I've done fundraisers before, so. Thank you, or as the Georgians say, Didi Madloba. Big thanks from Georgia. So, meanwhile, so Nick, did you think about that question?
Yeah. So, have I found a strong source of identity at tribe or story? Yeah. I mean, it's always still in progress. My personality is a very kind of fragmented one in a way. But I over time more and more I see things that I don't just accept about being a man, but that I love about being a man. It can be a little hard to describe off the top of my head, but I mean, I feel like a man. I feel like I'm a bit immature in certain ways, or that my maturity is very uneven. But I mean, overall, I mean, the foundation of my identity is in my Christian identity. I became I found faith right at the same time that I was realizing that that transition was a mistake. I was born and raised Catholic, but it wasn't taken very seriously. Right. So when I was exploring other religions, I was very interested in Hinduism. Because of the Indian religious mystical sort of mentality, but I started to believe in God during that time, and then it sort of just made the things I already knew about Christianity start to click more. And so I mean, I'm a Catholic at heart, through and through. In some ways, I have some views that put me, I feel, at odds a little bit with the church, but I have no desire to not be part of the Catholic tradition. Right. So I feel very much connected to that. As far as finding a personal a tighter tribe, it's still sort of in the works. I did my undergrad at a Catholic college. And I met some really good friends. I went to a bunch of their weddings. I was the best man at one of them. And so I found some really good friends. We've sort of drifted apart a little bit, but we still keep in touch. And I hope to, I'm kind of an academic, nerdy sort of person. So I mean, I know that what you say about nerdy, but I use that word loosely. I'm a very like academic person, the way that I'm devotional, but I also do think about a lot of the academic side of biblical studies, and I hope to find maybe more people who will, I don't know, not be annoyed by some of the academic stuff.
Yeah, I don't mind you using whatever words. It's as long as I'm a little conscience in your head that makes you go like, wait a minute.
It's a good point.
Now and then. Yeah, and I have a lot of questions about, I mean, this is one thing I've been thinking about ever since, I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area in the late 60s. I saw the first hippies, and I saw things mutate very quickly after that. And I also saw people who were, and ever since then, I've seen the way people change, the way ideas spread by osmosis. I often wonder, would we be having these problems with identity if, for instance, well, for one thing, our work has changed so that I was just listening to Mary Harrington talk today. The book she did last year is really good, and I would recommend.
I still have that in mind.
But she was talking about, she says we must be gendered, but the problem is we're also doing a lot of work, which, what gender is a person typing on a computer? Doesn't matter. A lot of what we do, a clerk, a checkout person at a grocery store, doesn't matter. This isn't the kind of thing. Also, we do not have any more. There's no initiations of any sort. It used to be that the boys and girls were raised together by the mother. And then the men at a certain point, when the boy was around 12 or 13, would take him out and say, okay, enough of this girl stuff. You're going to be hunting, and you're going to be doing some very hard work and stuff. So we're going to have to toughen you up. And so they would do some, so many cultures had rituals and such. Ours has very little in the way of ritual activity that distinguishes men from women.
Yeah, it's hard to think of what that would be if we were to have it today.
Well, yeah, that's the whole point. I do think, though, and I haven't done a video on this. I've been weighing certain thoughts for a long time. But what is the role of men in a family now? I think one of the answers has to be that just because one thing that doesn't change essentially is that the woman gives birth to the children. I mean, we are entering a brave new world here where these things are going to be under attack, and they are under attack. But she gives birth to the children. Then a good mother will spend time with her children. Hopefully she doesn't have to go immediately back to work or something. So she forms a bond. She's nursing, she gives birth, she's with them. Women are great with children when they're younger. Then something begins to happen. And so essentially she trains the women, young girls, to be her eventually. But what happens with the boys? And this was one of the problems I had with my mother, is I had to separate myself from her. And since she didn't know any better and her life was quite chaotic, one thing that happened was at the age of 15, I became a Christian with this Jesus People group, which she was happy for, fortunately, and eventually became a Christian herself. But that really changed me because especially when I went to live on these Christian communes, because the other guys who were there would not let me get away with the kind of stuff my mother would let me get away with. Because, mothers, it's just really hard for most mothers, not all, but most mothers, to correct their children in a certain way, to teach them, how to do things. They'll get mad at you. You need to take the garbage out. You need to clean up after yourself. You need to get up, that kind of stuff. But that's just can be easily interpreted simply as nagging. Whereas by the time I went and lived on some of these communes, I would be working and they would look at me and go like, Bern, we see that you're slacking off. You need to, get your game in gear or your butt. And also I would go out and do really hard physical work. And it was the kind of physical work most guys don't do these days. I mean, really tough stuff. I remember thinking when I got to New York City, I would start telling stories about castrating animals and stuff, and people would look at me in horror. And I thought this was like a normal thing. That didn't people grow up on farms and stuff? And the answer is no, they didn't. But nevertheless, these kinds of experience, eventually, like I said, I got to New York City and I didn't have any problems with, I realized, oh, the guys here, they're kind of wimpy. And later I realized why. It's because they didn't go through what I went through and that kind of thing. So in that process, I got other men to deal with me. And they also had a very different relationship to knowledge and information. I think men tend to get hung up or very interested in certain kinds of things. So whether it's cars and what's under the hood,
you have to figure it out,
or whether it's certain kinds of knowledge or something, men always tend to find some sort of thing-oriented activity, and it much more so than women do. Although women who grow up in a primarily male-oriented family will develop that, and it makes it much easier to get along with these weird men. But if you grow up and there's just kind of a socialization around the mother more. Did you have a father?
Yeah. I was gonna say. I mean, he certainly taught me to never be seen slacking off if I was working on a job or something like that. I mean, in some ways, he taught me, all the things that the things that a father should teach his sons. And in some ways, I think he was very anxious. Like he was already seeing kind of the kind of push to maybe feminize boys. And I think he overcompensated by like kind of putting on an act which made it seem very fake and cheesy to me.
What kind of media were you attracted to when you were younger?
Media? I mean, I watched like, I was just so like drawn to like silly cartoons, Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon.
Yeah, well, when I finally get finished with my cute series, which I promise everyone I will, one of the things I've come to the conclusion is, and I've mentioned this in the things I have done so far, is that there's would we have a trans kind of social contagion if we didn't have cute things?
Cute is big.
I don't know the answer to that, but I do know that there's, I mean, the overlap is incredible. So whether it's, how many furries are trans also, it's this, and the cute animal has no gender.
Yeah.
I mean, Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse, can you really tell the difference? No.
Yeah. Sexless. Yeah. I mean, a big part of why, I mean, I wasn't consciously thinking about it exactly when I went on the hormones, but the hormones took away my sex drive.
We wouldn't consciously think of that.
Yeah.
And it's something that's there underneath. And here's the interesting thing, this big-eyed thing, the next things I'm going to do on the cute issue are the two-part history. And here's what I know. This big-eyed cute thing is relatively new historically. There were some big-eyed statues and paintings in the ancient world, but they weren't cute. They were kind of frightening.
Yeah.
Then we had, in the Romantic era, you had the first children's literature, and it got kind of sappy, and you had these kind of sweet paintings, children's illustrations, not the really good children's illustrations, but the really commercial ones. And eventually you get Mickey Mouse. And Mickey Mouse, like, for instance, Mickey Mouse just went into public domain, but the Mickey Mouse that went into public domain is not the cute round-headed one. It's the Steamboat Willie one, who is much more of a rascal. And once you get to these little big-eyed, baby-like, round-headed things, and here's the question: we never ask anything about that stuff. We're absolutely impervious to questioning that stuff. It's kind of like you're considered like there's something weird about you if you even spend any time thinking about it. And I think that this is a weird thing underneath the whole culture that has just gone through everything. And now people have cute avatars. They see themselves as cute and such. I see that I have another little red little dot saying somebody's trying to get through here. So I'm going to do that. We're going to listen to some more music. Do you have access to the chat, you have access to the chat there? You've got some more questions for you.
Oh, me?
Yeah. So why don't you look through that while I play another song, and we'll come back. And I appreciate you folks taking part. Good to see you. Thanks again, Sean, David. Good to see you, and Nico. Good to have you from Argentina. And let's see what we've got here. Well, actually, oh no, that's the old one. I'll be back in a moment with that one. But remember, we're trying to raise money to get my container and my library from Alaska all the way here. We're trying to raise $12,000. We've got $6,000 already for the freighter costs. We've got $2,000 for the barge to get the library from Alaska to Seattle, Washington. And then we've got, we're working on right now the $2,000 we need for the truck, train, and customs here in Georgia. So PayPal links below. GoFundMe if you need a tax-deductible receipt or would like to remain anonymous. And we will be back very soon talking more to Nick. And I'm going to choose something now. Oh, okay. I'm going to play the Italian folk music that turns into the twist. So here we go. Oh. This is I Barritas doing the Gambale twist.
Nell'attuale cosmopolitismo della musica leggera, che sta ormai annullando le caratteristiche di ciascun paese, un singolare esempio di fedeltà al costume e al folklore tradizionale ci viene offerto ora da un tipico complesso sardo, i Barritas.
Querer de cozu la Giovanna și noaptea mujadare panelentu Zervekej, pika giocado, curro di cambiare, non tu isto ballare, voglio di giocare, pro ballare giusto, e la Zervekej, pika giocado, curro di cambiare, non tu isto ballare, voglio di giocare, pro ballare. Zervekej, pika giocado, curra di cambiare, non tu isto ballare, voglio di giocare, pro ballare giusto. Zervekej, pika giocado, curra di cambiare, non tu isto ballare, voglio di giocare, pro ballare giusto, e voglio di giocare, pro ballare giusto, voglio di giocare, pro ballare giusto, voglio di giocare.
Pretty funny stuff. Yeah, that's like early 1960s, mid 1960s, Italian folk rock. I don't know what was going on there. I like the big stockings they wear on their head. Pretty funny. So, Chemo just came through with another $30 donation. Chemo, I believe I owe you at least 50. I owe you the 50 pack of Georgian music, because you've given, I think this is your third time, and you started off with 20, you got 30. You're golden. So I'm gonna send those to you. And again, we're raising funds to get my library from Haines, Alaska, 12 time zones to Tbilisi, Georgia. And we've got over $8,000. We're trying to get the next $2,000 to get it through customs, and to get a truck to get it from the coast in the Black Sea, and to get a group of guys to drag it up my stairs one flight here. This is such a massive project. So also, just to remind everyone, with what's going on in Yemen, the reason it's going on in Yemen is that they are taking serious ships, like warship type stuff, and stopping freight. So the Maersk line, which is the biggest shipping line in the world, has said, "No, we're not going through the Red Sea." And that's a big deal, which means to get my stuff here, we'll probably have to go through the Panama Canal or around the Cape. I don't know. The real problem is that it's looking like it's going to take 3 months to get my stuff here, 2 to 3 months. I thought it was like 35 days or 40 days, 2 to 3 months, I'm told now. And what that means is that's getting real close to the time I need to get my residence permit renewed, and I need to get this done before then. And so the sooner I get the remaining $4,000 to get this whole 12,000 done, the better. And so if you can help, do help. And links down below, PayPal and GoFundMe. Meanwhile, back to Nick. We were talking about your life and the decisions related to gender, transitioning, and detransitioning. Did you have any answer for any of the comments here?
Oh, yeah. So let's see. The first one was, well, for both of us, are either of you familiar with the Catholic Latin Mass? Yes, I love the Latin Mass. I used to go primarily to the Latin Mass. It's less close by to where I am now. For a while, I was like really pretty insistent on going to Latin Mass. I'm less insistent about it now, but I still love it.
Mm-hmm. And someone asked you here. Let's see. It was. Did you like Japanese anime?
I do like anime. It's sort of surprising that I didn't watch a lot of anime growing up, because it just seems like something that would have captivated me, but I enjoy some anime.
And Sean is asking if in your experience it had to do with distancing yourself from reality. In the former case, it says outright denial. In the latter, it's the attempt to transcend it. Were you trying to transcend the world you were living in, or just to back off from it and to take on this, obviously questions of identity and such?
I think it was mostly a flight from reality than an attempt to transcend reality. Mm-hmm. Like there is sometimes a kind of maybe transhumanist kind of connection. I've come across some people who kind of identify as trans, and they kind of see it as like sort of like, we humans, we have the power to make we can make ourselves whatever we want. I didn't really theorize that much about gender at the time. I theorized.
You're going by something else.
What's that?
You're going by something inside of you that's, there are these different kinds of pressures. We don't even know where they come from, especially at that age.
Right. I had the question in my mind, like all those things, is gender, is it just a social construct? Is it a real thing? Like a lot of times people who kind of argue against the trans movement, they really harp on the idea of like there's no such thing as gender, there's no such thing as a gendered soul. But I don't really know how many people are really arguing for something like that. It seems a little bit of a caricature. I basically just saw it as, you know, it seems to me that, I fully acknowledged that I was male, but that it seemed to me that something had gone on either the way I was born or the way that I was early on socialized, that it seemed like for all intents and purposes, I would fit more in I would fit better in the social category of woman. And if I could socially signal to people by how I looked and could be accepted by society as a woman, then I would be able to interact that way, and that would be smoother for me, which didn't turn out to be true. But I didn't really speculate about, so much about the reality aspect of it. It sort of just seemed a little bit irrelevant to me. But that said, it was a flight from fully owning that being male, I also have been socialized as male in a social world that is always going to be social and gendered, and that the only way for me to fully participate as a member of a community, which I need, is to actually play into the male role. It's not merely just playing, it's really accepting the kind of sexed person that I came into this world to be.
Yeah, I'm often looking at what motivates us from underneath, because one of the things I think, people often think, in America in particular, we're kind of pushed to thinking about how to choose your own direction, choose who you are, and all this sort of stuff. And we think about our individual psychology, but we never think about mass psychology. And one of the things that struck me, I just put out 2 essays, and I'll eventually have 2 videos on Taylor Swift. And I'm looking at the Swifties' mass behavior. And for me, what's interesting is, why is this happening as a mass? That is to say, what's underneath it? What's pushing this? It's not as simple as nice singer is really popular. There's other things going on here. And for instance, when I was in Alaska, sometime around 2003, 2004, there was a girl that I was kind of teaching and helping, and she ended up telling me she was a cutter. She waited until I had left and to go on a vacation, and then sent me an email mentioning it, not really explaining it. And I said, oh boy. Fortunately, I was out in New York City, and immediately bought a couple books on the subject. But I was sitting there going this did not happen to any degree that I know of when I was younger. It's happening now. And, how many people know these people? But why? Why is this kind of behavior? Anorexia was a kind of thing that went around for a while. It still does. Bulimia then became more of a thing in the 80s. So these weird behaviors, we get into it. I mean, I saw it when I was young. I saw suddenly everyone was changing their behavior because I was watching the core of the hippie movement in the San Francisco Bay Area. I watched people's behaviors all change overnight. And this wasn't a small change. This was, nowadays, some groups will have longer hair, some groups will have short hair. Back then, everyone looked alike, basically. There was a general, if you look at photos from the early 60s, late 50s, everyone kind of looks the same. There are a few people who have more open collars, but everyone's wearing suits and button-down shirts of one kind or another. The women are generally following certain trends. And then, bam, this massive thing just starts moving. And many of the things, I'm sure you probably watched some of my How We Got Here series.
Oh yeah, yeah, watch the whole thing.
And the thing that really gets me is, why does it happen? And I think part of it is that we get to a point where there's all these pressures in society. and then all of a sudden something will slip and it'll move. And I think we've seen that again in the last 10 years.
People don't necessarily even consciously communicate these ideas to each other. It's only till quite a while after, and then people start thinking in terms of like, who is telling them that, because they like XYZ, they're, this boy is a girl, or vice versa. Like, sometimes people do get, there is a certain indoctrination that happens too. And a lot of times people will chalk it up to, resisting strict gender roles. But again, there was way more strict gender roles, in the past. So why weren't people rebelling against that by being trans then? It seems to me that the critics of, or the people kind of on the extremes of this debate, you have kind of, if you have gender ideology, that you kind of can self-make your sort of gender identity that has nothing to do with your physical body. And then you kind of have kind of the TERFs and the gender criticals, who I think have a kind of a naive criticism. They often are getting the most important things right, but they are very kind of focused on, again, on still being like a fully self-made person that isn't inherently social. It seems that they don't really appreciate that we're social creatures, to me, and that it's sort of just they just focus on you're a man or you're a woman because you're male or you're female, and that's all that there is to it. There's nothing more that really needs to be said about how you actually form as a person in a society because of your sex.
Look at it as that we need cross-pollination. And so if you're in a family or a situation where it's predominantly women, you're going to see certain behaviors manifest within that situation that are going to be very different from a situation which is predominantly male. They say that women left alone kind of form something like a family, but a family with a lot of, people talking about each other. Whereas men left alone kind of form an army. And they will naturally kind of they'll naturally start figuring out the hierarchy. Who's in charge here? Who knows this? Who knows that? And then something like that. And I think that there is, we entered a state after World War II where we had so much emphasis on the military. There was so much bloodshed and horror from the war. There was so many unanswered questions. And the people in the general society had no answers for these things. People often think, well, right after World War II, everyone was talking about Auschwitz, right? No, that didn't happen until basically the 1960s. And that's when it began. It took a while for these things to start developing. So one of the reasons for the explosion of the 60s is that so many questions were unanswered and so much trauma occurred during that period. And I think that what starts there just continues in various forms of kind of traumatic behavior, essentially, since then. Why would girls start starving themselves? Now, part of it has to do with the relationship of the father to the girl. Why would a girl start cutting herself? It has to do with the relationship of the family and such. And there are all these individual things. But beneath that, forming the bedrock of people's thoughts, are the social, philosophical, technological bedrock of what people are basing their lives upon. So, well, I think we're going to start wrapping this up here. I want to get out of here before the top of the hour, because if I keep this slightly under 2 hours, it goes to my Odyssey page, which whatever that's worth. But I'd like to thank you for dropping in, Nick. It was good to finally meet you.
Yeah, great to meet you. I should. I thought I should really mention. There was just a documentary that just came out. I don't know if you heard of it, The Lost Boys.
Which one?
Called The Lost Boys: Searching for Manhood.
Okay.
It's up for free on YouTube. I was in it. It's the first of its kind.
Oh, nice.
Documentary.
Why don't you send me a link to that, and I will give it a look.
Should I post it in the chat? or?
No, don't do it in the chat because I'm not going to look at that much later. Do it in the comment section below the video.
Okay.
Or even so, you have my email for the channel here, so go ahead and send it to me that way. That'll be great. Yeah, and in a way, the movie The Lost Boys, I don't know if you ever saw that.
People were mentioning it.
It's kind of prophetic because it talks about boys getting lost and then becoming vampires, which to me, the vampire metaphor is really telling because it's someone who has no identity of their own. They have to get the life out of other people to stay alive. Yeah. And that's like a total metaphor for social media. You know?
Something was pushing me to want to read the classic vampire stories because I think there is something there.
No, I had a friend who was just obsessed with the relationship of vampires to postmodern humanity, that we've all become vampires. And he would say we've all, and I would go, well, I haven't. But, you know, because I'm pretty secure in, you know, it's just like, but that's because of all my ideas about time. And I think when you locate yourself in history, you start to break out of the problem of locating yourself in visual space. And in visual space, you're all wondering, like, you know, what do I look like on my channel and such? How do I appear? I'm self-conscious. But when you locate yourself in history, you can suddenly say, oh yeah, I'm the product of people who were escaping Eastern Europe and Scotland and Norway during periods of poverty, and I ended up here. And many of those people went through their own traumas. One of my grandfathers was in World War I, had mustard gas wounds, and you start seeing that, oh, and that affected my mother this way, and then you start saying, oh, okay, this is all part of the bedrock of this.
Yeah, no, getting my focus outside of myself is a big thing.
Yeah,
rather than being.
Nick, let's have a chat sometime on the official channel. Although this is going to go out there, but maybe in a few months down the road, maybe after I get this thing here. And I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you being honest and opening up. And I hope, you know, whatever I've said is helpful in any way.
Yeah.
Okay. So thanks. So let me just remind you all what we're doing here. We are trying to get my library from Haines, Alaska, all the way to Tbilisi, Georgia. We're doing a good job, and I appreciate Sean just gave us $100. Chemo gave us another $30, so you can double dip. It's okay. James F. gave us $50. Michael Stasevich gave us $3. Do you see how this works? There's really no excuse for saying I don't have any money. $3 is literally nothing. That's like less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks or something. So give. And I'm going to get out of here in a few minutes. I've got about 4 or 5 minutes left on here before I say farewell for now. I am going to be doing this again. I am going to try to do it on my Georgian Crossroads channel and my Gravity from Above channel within the week, probably Sunday and such. I'll be back here early next week doing more. That was wonderful. I think I've sneezed about 6 times in a row. Someone told me about someone who sneezed about like 30 times in a row. And I know if I sneeze 6 times in a row, you know, that's why I've never taken drugs, you know. I can't imagine what it would be like to sneeze 30 times in a row. Pretty amazing. So, okay. So, I'd like to thank all of you for helping me. So the overall goal, $12,000. We've gotten $6,000 for the freighter, $2,000 for the barge to come down the coast of Alaska and British Columbia to Seattle, Washington. We're now working on the truck cost, truck and train, and the crew to get my stuff here, and customs. So that's another $2,000. Then we got to get the $2,000 to get me to Alaska, and we need to do that. I need to get the ticket as soon as possible. I think when we finally crack 10,000, I will go ahead and buy the airplane ticket and commit myself, or if I don't, maybe I'll commit myself in some other way to an institution. it's weighing on me, especially wondering, you know, what's happening with the Red Sea, what's happening. Will I get my stuff in time before the my residence permit is due? Although I'm not really afraid, but it's still, I'd like to get that done. And you know, and I have been going through periods of doubts where I wonder, like, you know, what if I don't get there? What if I don't have enough money? I mean, I am doing this on a shoestring. The $12,000 isn't like it doesn't give me a lot of room to play with the money or anything. It just gets the job done. And I, unfortunately, because of my life choices, am not a rich person at all. I was saying to myself, how come I can't just do this myself? It's the same reason that I can pass on information to you, is because rather than look for money, I've been looking to understand things, and I've done a lot of that. So, any final thoughts on the comments before I get out of here? If there are, let them loose now. I'll be out of here in 2 minutes. So, well, it was a pretty good night. We got what was it, about $183 plus some other stuff that straggled in. $100 anonymous came in. My friend Laura Giles gave us $100. My Russian friend Lida gave us $36, which was basically a 100 lari note. And that's the first of my Russian friends to do that. Russian Georgia people in Georgia. Man, I don't want to do this over and over and over again. But I figure I have to get this money before the end of the month. So I'm going to be annoying. Will you forgive me? Okay. Well, thanks for being here. I am out. I think, is there something? Yeah, let me just play this little piece of Georgian music in the Kiev airport. Bunch of people sitting there waiting for a plane back in the days before Kiev was in trouble. And this is just Georgians hanging out, waiting, and we'll watch this. And wait, what's that? What's that? Someone's trying to get through. What do you got here? Nick. Okay, thanks. That's just Nick. So watch this and look for this again soon. More good stuff coming. Thank you so much for all of your help and support.